Mark.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed after twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Order. Mark. Ready, 2.
Follow me to the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, bow your heads, let's pray. Father, we're so grateful to you for another wonderful day that you have given us. Our hearts are filled with gratitude for everything that you've done in us, through us, and for us. We thank you for this installation, for the commander that's opened the doors and provided such a wonderful meal for us today. We declare blessing over this installation, blessing over the city of Fort Worth, blessing over Tarrant County, over Texas, and over the United States of America. Thank you for being Lord over our nation. We bless you, we honor you, and we give you all the praise in Jesus' name. If you agree with that, shout amen.
Amen. Detail, right, face, back, forward, march.
All right, take your seats.
Thank you.
Wow. What a crowd today. Welcome back, roll call veterans. Has it already been a year since we had you here? Where has time gone? Yeah, you can applaud, absolutely. Something about working on this base that just makes time fly. Let me tell you, Mary and I started meeting, what was it, about January, Mary, talking about this event. And I think for the first 30 minutes that Mary was in my office, before we even started talking about all the planning that goes into this, we were talking about the excitement that this generated last year, not only in your organization, but the men and women that wear the uniform on this base that joined us last year. I think Mary and I agree, and I'm going to be here for the remainder of this year, but I think Mary and I agree that this is an event that needs to happen on an annual basis. Everybody good with that? So if you weren't here last year, I'll say it again. Today is about honoring you. Today is about us in uniform on active duty today, thanking you for your service and your sacrifice to this nation. And that is not a veiled thank you. I thank you regardless of what generation you were from, what service uniform you wore, how long you were on duty. I think we're represented here today all the way from World War II to present day veterans. It doesn't matter where you stood the watch, when you stood the watch, or for how long you stood the watch. This flag that hangs right here in this hangar every time we do a ceremony is a product of your service to this nation. And on behalf of the 10,000 men and women, we're not all here today. We've got about 200 in uniform, but on the behalf of the 10,000 men and women that serve in the active duty side and the reserves on this base, thank you for your service and sacrifice to the greatest nation on the face of this earth. I tell you, we can't have a day like today without also remembering those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. So our prayers go up to those families that lost loved ones in every conflict, going back to the birth of this nation. I'll tell you another thing I learned, and Mary and I talked about this, and I didn't realize this going into the event last year, but our men and women get just as much benefit out of an event like this as you do. It is as big a deal for us on this base as it is for you. We walked away last year from my Command Master Chief, who is the senior enlisted on this base, all the way down to my most junior enlisted. It was story after story that they heard from you. That connection from the past to the present to those in the future who will serve this country came out of this hangar last year. And I believe the further we get away from war or conflict, we need to have more of these events. We have men and women who have entered the gates of this base for the first time in the last couple of months who have not left the United States. They need to hear from you, our veteran force who has served this nation, and understand how important a role they will play in the future of this nation. Every generation has had a conflict, right? Yes. Every generation going forward, more than likely, will face an adversary. And us connecting our past to our current men and women is oh so important. These individuals that will serve you today will sit down and break bread with you, and they're going to do that because they need to hear from you. They'll share some of their sea stories, their deployment stories, but more importantly, I think they need to hear what sacrifice looked like in your generation. And I'll tell you, I learn every time from this group that I'm around you. Mary was kind enough to bring over a couple of veterans for our Pearl Harbor, I think it was the 81st Remembrance Ceremony over at the chapel. I'm going to try to get these names right, but I think Bill McIntyre was there. Where's Bill? Are you here today, Bill? Hey, Bill. Bill is there, yeah. Jack Stowe, is Jack there? Jack, what grade was it that you left high school? Was it 9th grade you left high school and joined the service in World War II?
Low 9.
What was that?
Low 9.
Low 9th grade. I can't imagine that you told them your actual age when you went to sign up. Al Chatwin was right behind you. Is Al here today? Al, thank you for your service. And then I got to hear from Derek, is it Derek Scout? Derek South, not here. We thought he was going to be here. Served on the battleship Pennsylvania from 42 to 45. Stories he would tell me after the remembrance ceremony for Pearl Harbor about being out in the Pacific and Japanese aircraft flying over that battleship. Incredible generation. What about Cliff? Is Cliff here today? Cliff was in a glider. Cliff, is this true? You were in a glider June 6, 1944. Does that date ring a bell to anybody? Flew into Normandy. I don't know if you can get me in an aircraft that doesn't have an engine in it, but sir, we thank you for your service. And that's just one generation. That's just the World War II generation. I think we're going to have Mr. Bill Parker come up here today. Bill is our guest interview. Bill was in the first wave, one of the first men in the first wave on Omaha Beach on D-Day. If you know your history, and many of you are part of that history, 96% casualty rate in that group. Bill Parker is here today to represent the sacrifice that that group paid on D-Day. And I'm excited to hear from Bill Parker, but I know we've got generations here from Korea, Vietnam, Gulf War, Desert Storm, the global war on terror. I can't say it enough. We thank you, the men and women in uniform, for your service and sacrifice to this nation. I know Mary's got a great program here today. I can see we're already starting to serve food. Thank you to the men and women over here from Birchmount Baptist Church who put all this together. I know they do it for you on a monthly basis. But they're going to feed us today after we're finished serving you. I want to point out just a couple of folks that helped me, and they'll have to raise their hand. But this setup was led by Chief Jones. Chief, where are you? Just right here in front of me on the laptop. He's still working. The Chief's got 3 sailors working for him. AD1 Barrel, are you back here? AD1 Barrel, raise your hand. Was instrumental in leadership. CS1 Tanksley. You will see, he's right over here by the cake because he was the leadership behind that cake that's supposed to feed at least 600 people today. And we cannot leave here until we finish the cake, so that's going to be a team effort. Get over there and take a look at it. We got somebody cutting the cake with? Bill's going to cut the cake with us here. He did that last year. And then Petty Officer Skaletsky, is he here? Is he here, Chief? Right there waving his hand. So those are first-class petty officers for you in the blue and the green red uniforms of the Marine Corps. That's an E6. We've got a couple of those that really put an army of folks together to set all this up. And then how about this Texas Air National Guard band? We have them show up. Yeah. There's only 6 of them here today, and I'll tell you the reason there's only 6 is because there's some band members that are down on the border of Texas and Mexico right now on active duty orders, keeping us safe. So real world missions going on at this base, but they were kind enough to bring 6 here today, give you a little scene setting music before we get started, and then I think they're going to play the service songs before we depart today. And then that voice that you heard was one of my former chief petty officers right here, Zach Easterling. How about a round of applause for Zach Easterling? Working over at the Readiness Command for Captain Al Seaman, doing a great job. And you'll see him at events out in town. And then just a couple of, other than all the VIPs that are in the veteran side of the house, but General Mitch Hansen, I saw him walk in, just said hello. He's here today. Former wing commander of the 301st. I see Colonel Duckworth. Jax, just raise your hand back there, working over the 10th Air Force. Is Marcia here? Colonel Harrison from the 301st, he's waving in the back. So you got some leadership here from the Air Force side of the house. You guys managed to bring Major General Ratliff along with you? General Ratliff, 2-star back there in the back. So a couple flag officers joining us. There's Mitch Hansen standing right next to him. They just want you to know how much they appreciate your service. So, Mary, what's that? And then the civic leaders here, Mr. Lyle Oakey's here. He's going to recognize some of our sailors, airmen, and Marines who had volunteered time in the community. We'll see that towards the end of the ceremony. But you don't want to hear me talk, so I'm going to turn the microphone over to Mary, and we'll get started. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Another round of applause for the skipper. We really appreciate his support.
Let's give a big round of applause to the VR-59 team that opened up their hangar to us and their commander, Colonel Dan Parker. I showed up here this morning about 8:30 and all that was here was this stage and that flag. And in no time, this whole support team of Air Force, Navy, Marines, they rolled out these tables along with our volunteers and got all this together. So this is a big undertaking as you look around the room. Now there are some seats open, and there are some seats open in the front. So we would really love for our military men and women to come sit up here with our veterans as you finish serving and you sit down to eat. Please sit with these guys while they're eating. They love to share their stories with you and hear your stories. So please do that for us. And as we always do at any roll call lunch, I know you're eating, but we have to do it because it's tradition. If this is your very first time coming to a roll call lunch, please stand up and be recognized. First time, never been to a roll call lunch. So now those of you sitting at the table with them that are old roll call vets, make sure you welcome them the way we always do and make sure you bring them into the family. And of course, we wouldn't be here completely by ourselves were it not for our partnership with the Navy and this year with the Fort Worth Civic Leaders. So make sure that you reach out to them. I think there's a table of civic leaders somewhere. Right here. So this Fort Worth Civic Leaders are here today, and this is a joint luncheon with them. So enjoy your lunch, and a few minutes we're going to start the program.
It did have ground floors. I guess that was something extra. This was in the oil field camps. My daddy go out there and work in the oil fields, and that's where I was born. They named me William Norman Parker, and my dad just stepped up and said, the boy's name is Bill. He's born a cowboy, he'll be a cowboy, and he'll die a cowboy. And I've tried to live up to that. War took part of it though, took the big part. I would have been a professional bull rider if the war hadn't come along. And I rode bulls enough in the outside range, roping other people's bulls and catching them and riding them, till I knew that I could make a name. Anyway, after the war was over, I met, now I can't think of his name, big bull rider from down south. And I told him, I said, if a war hadn't come along, you'd have had some competition. He'd winning the war, but it did come along. So I ended that. And there was the prettiest girl I ever saw standing there at the mailbox. And I stopped and talked to her, didn't get off my horse, just talked to her for about 45 minutes or an hour. She finally said she had to go, so she did. I didn't see her the rest of that year, but anyway, I never did get her off my mind.
Yeah, how long did you have Carlene? How long?
73 years.
Okay, now,
Colleen, and then you had to go into the Army after Pearl Harbor was bombed. And she wrote to you the whole time.
She wrote to me twice a week. And I wrote back when I could, but that wasn't too often. But anyway.
Well, you trained right down here in Texas at Fort Walters, or Camp Walters then, and then shipped out to Europe.
Yeah, Camp Walters, Texas.
And then you got to Europe on D-Day, you went across the channel on the USS Thomas Jefferson. Tell us about how you unloaded and got onto the landing craft and went to the beach.
Well,
Bill, tell them what the Navy fed you for breakfast.
okay. I don't guess there's any sailors in the bunch. But, for breakfast that morning, they fed us beans, just beans. That was on June the 6th, 1944. Anyway, we ate the beans, but
Then you had to get on the landing craft, Bill. You were the first man to get on the landing craft.
that was, I was the first man on the landing craft. That is after we took 17 weeks training. And training from one beach to another. And then we got on a big, I guess there's some Navy men in here, so I better call it a ship. I thought it was a boat. But they didn't inform me it wasn't a boat. But anyway, I guess the morning of June the 6th, they fed us beans for breakfast. And we all ate the beans.
Bill, they want to know how you felt going across that water, the channel. Were you scared?
Was I scared? No, I wasn't scared. Not because I didn't have sense enough to be. It's just because I'd had so much training, all I was doing what I trained to do. That was across the beach.
Bill, when the ramp went down at 0631, who went out first? Who went in waist deep water?
0631.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know about the one. I knew at 6:30 while I was on the beach, the first man in front. The reason I was the first man in front is because I carried a big and load torpedo to blow the water. And I had 5 men in my marking section, and we went across that beach with a machine gun hitting the ground right in front of us, kicking up sand. And we got up to the wire though, without all getting shot, and we stuck our torpedoes under the wire. Next man stuck his under the end, and then we broke the wire. That's when I looked back, and there wasn't nobody behind me. The landing craft that I landed on had got shelled just about the time I got off of it. Nobody else made it. But anyway, we fought the Germans on the bank and was whipping them pretty well. But the pillboxes where the machine guns were shooting out of, we couldn't do anything with them. They were keeping us pinned down. And I know some Navy men in here, and I give the Navy credit for saving the invasion. because when they saw we were pinned down, why somebody over the battleship ordered them in close to shore, and they knocked out the pillboxes, and that turned us loose to go for the invasion. And we fought our way in that day on June the 6th. I don't know how many miles, but not very far. And anyway, night come. Of course, we'd all got displaced. None of us was with our units where we belonged, but there was 20 or 30 men following me. I don't know why. But anyway, why, dark come, and they wanted to know what we was going to do. And I said, well, I'm going to stay right here at daylight. I'm not going to fight the Germans after dark. Next morning, I was out of ammunition, so I had to go back to the beach to get the ammunition. I'm not going to tell you that I got it off those dead men because my mind won't let me remember it. Anyway, I got the ammunition. That's the first time I'd seen the beach. You can't imagine. Well, look at this crowd. And every other man in it laying there dead. That's the way the beach looked.
Bill, next day, you had those men following you, and you came on an officer, and what did he tell you? What did that lieutenant tell you?
Well, when I come in with about 20 or 30 men following me, why, he said, Lieutenant.
Said Sergeant.
No, Sergeant.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Getting ahead of us then.
Yeah.
He said, Sergeant, put your men in this hole, we're fixing to take this town. And I said, well, all right, but I'm not a sergeant, I'm a private. And he said, you're a sergeant now. So from that day on, and I guess I must have been a pretty good soldier because I was discharged as a tech sergeant. But anyway, why, we went on and fought Saint-Lô. That's another big town in France. And we made through it, went on across France.
Bill, you were wounded in France, and you wounded in the foot, and you kept going for 2 weeks. What happened? What happened to your foot?
Well, it swelled up. It swelled up and I couldn't get my boot off. So I had to go back to the back hospital, which was in a tent. I got back there and there was 2, and I'm sure we got some lieutenants here. Smart lieutenants looked at it, said they were doctors. And one of them said, well, we got to take it off. It's got gangrene in it. And you could have heard me from over here, and you're not taking my foot off. And captain heard it, and he come over and looked at it, and he said, no, get you a bucket of Epsom salt, soak it till it comes to a head, then take it off. And then as he walked off, he turned around, said, that's what my grandma would do. So I still got my foot.
Bill, one thing I want to ask you about, when you said you went back to get ammo, you also went into a bunker and saw a German in the bunker.
Yeah.
What'd you say to him?
Well, it was the same bunker that was shooting at me, and he was dead, laying over his machine gun. And I just told him, I said, your war is over, but you didn't get me. And
Now, you ended up, as the winter came on, you fought at the Battle of the Bulge in the snow and the ice. And you also carried a pistol with you.
yeah, I still got it. 6-shooter, 45, not a 6-shooter. It was an Army gun. I got it from a tank called men. It was issued in. Traded them an automatic for it.
Bill, who did you shoot with that 45? Who did you shoot in that auditorium?
The first one or the last one? Anyway, what he wanted to know is about dark one day, things was getting dark. I always used a pistol when I went into a building, and I could hit with one. Anyway, I walked in this big building about like this, and down in the end where the windows was, I saw a big man standing there, and it was getting dark. I hollered at him and told him to turn around and throw up his hands, and he didn't do it. I hollered again, and he didn't do it. And I up and shot him with my pistol. And something happened that I didn't think was hardly right, but I shot his head off. It just fell over to one side. Well, I went down to see what it was, and I had shot Hitler. It was a big chalk bust to Hitler.
That was probably, yeah, they called you, this is Sergeant Parker, he shot Hitler.
All of my men after that, every chance they got, that's the way they introduced me. When this is Sergeant Parker that shot Hitler.
You didn't clean your handgun, you were so muddy, what happened?
I like to got killed. It raining and hailing and sleeting, and I tried to crib my M1 every night when we stopped, but we had to put as many people as we got here in a house. You had to get in at night because you'd freeze to death outside. And there wasn't room enough for you to do anything. So me and another soldier slept in the bathtub. I tried to clean my rifle a little, but I didn't get much done. Next morning we attacked it, and I went into a house, and just as I went through the door, there was an overturned table, and a German stuck his head up with his rifle, pointed right at me, fixing to pull the trigger. Well, I hadn't cleaned my rifle that night because I didn't have room, and when I pulled the trigger, it just snapped. And just fortunately, though, the man behind me shot him, and I got out of that. But from that time on, I cleaned my rifle.
And what happened to that soldier that day, Bill?
Well, he got killed. I didn't even get to thank him for what he had done. But That was just a common thing with us then. We got replacements at night. They got killed in the daytime, and we got replacements again the next night.
Bill, you were out fighting, and they came and got you and said they want to bring you back and talk to the general. Who was it?
Well, that general that they come back to was General Eisenhower. He had about, 10 of us lined up coming down the line shaking hands with us. It got to me, why, he asked me, said, well, Sergeant, where are you from? And I said, well, Oklahoma. And he said, well, we're neighbors. He was from Kansas. And he said, anything I can do for you, why, let me know. Well, we were in mud about ankle deep. He had them big Air Force fleece line overshoes on. I said, well, you could trade overshoes with me. And he began pulling them off. And I told him, I said, no, I didn't mean that. Yours would be just like mine. But he told me, he said, anything I can do for you, let me know. And why in the world I didn't tell him, well, get me out of this mess.
Okay, so you ended up meeting the Russians. You tell me about the end of the war when you met.
Yeah, we had fought all the way to the Ruhr River and went across the Ruhr River to meet the Russians. And we were fixing to go into Germany. Julep is a pretty big town in Germany. We were fixing to take it. And we got orders not to take it, that the Russians wanted to. So we let the Russians take it and was glad to let them have it.
So, since the war ended, have you been back to Normandy?
Since one time, like last year before last, I went back to Normandy, and I'm glad I went. I never go back, but I'm glad I went. The reason was that, well, every night I had my mares that, and I'd have traded them for anything, but I dreamed about the beach with all those dead soldiers on it. And after seeing it that time with no dead soldiers on it, little kids playing on the beach with their dogs, I haven't dreamed of the beach since. So
There's one more story that David told me about that I'd like to hear. When you went back to Normandy, there's a story where you had shot out windows out of a church.
yeah, that was, what was the name of that town?
Boulogne, France. And we met with the mayor,
Yeah.
and you told him something.
Well, the mayor made us a big talk, and there's about as many people there as there are here, about how we treated this town. Said, shot every window in town out. And when he got through talking, I was standing right behind him. He turned around and shook hands with me. And when he did, I said, well, Mayor, I'm sorry that we had to mess up your town, but I didn't know no other way of doing it. And I'm so sorry about all of the windows I shot out. He stuck his hand out and smiled, said, "We forgive you a long time ago."
Bill, I appreciate you coming all the way down from Tulsa to talk to us. I hope Texas has been good to you.
And I'm tickled to death to see the crowd we've got here today. All of them are good Americans.
Mark, can I say this a little bit? Real quick. Okay. Bill, we are in the presence of greatness. There's people out here.
To think that, well, I'm so glad to see these Americans here, especially these, well, all of them. I don't want to leave out anybody, because if we hadn't fought that war, you wouldn't be here now.
Yeah. All right. That's right. If it weren't for those that came before us, right? And those of you serving today, people are going to be looking up to you the way that you look up to people like Bill. So keep that in mind when you're out there getting the job done, achieving the mission. So, wow. Wow is all I can say. That Cowboy Sergeant Bill Parker, oh my goodness, have us all in tears. My name is Marilyn Reiner, and I am proud to be presenting for the Fort Worth Civic Leaders group and organization some wonderful awards for some very special people. There's so many special people here today that have done so much. And after that those stories are just, that means so much to every single person in this room, and we just appreciate you. The Fort Worth Civic Leaders appreciate you so much. And today we've got 5 special awards that we're doing, distinguished awards for these hardworking folks from our community. And they're representative of so many of you that do so much. So we just want to thank all of you, but we do want to make these distinguished awards. Brigadier General William Guy is going to be presenting for us. Do you want to come up here, General Guy? Thank you so much for being here. Oh, no, none of that. Okay, General Guy. Why don't you come right up here? Perfect. Thank you. All right. And I want you to know that these awardees are being honored as honorary members of the Fort Worth Civic Leaders Association. So we're proud to present these to them. Actually receiving Lieutenant Colonel Chavino. Is she here? Please come up. Lieutenant Colonel Chavino is receiving for Senior Master Sergeant Kevin Brannon with the United States Air Force 73rd Aerial Port Squadron. Senior Master Sergeant Kevin Brannon of the 301st Fighter Wing truly embodies the term servant leader. You can just stand there for a picture op. Thank you for receiving. Let me just tell you one thing about Kevin Brannon. With dedicated countless hours spent assisting and supporting cleanup and coordination after the 2022 tornado destruction in North Texas, Sergeant Brannon paved a way for rebuilding, raising funds, and touching many, many lives and families. His heart for raising support for the airmen is also extensive and compassionate, and he puts feet to his efforts. His energetic fundraising for the Whitesboro ISD is significant and shows as his son is playing in a champion game today, and as a result, Sergeant Brannon is with his family. So we just want to thank Sergeant Brannon this afternoon. Thank you for receiving him.
Next, we have United States Navy NAS JRB Fort Worth Security Department Master at Arms, First Class Petty Officer Zachary Mullen. Woo! Is that, oh, there's Zachary there. All right. And there you go, General Guy. Zachary Mullen right there behind you. Master at Arms First Class Petty Officer Zachary Mullen personifies excellence in all endeavors and has been a true naval ambassador throughout his tenure aboard the NAS JRB Fort Worth. He dedicated 207 off-duty hours through June and July last summer to organize and execute the installation's first National Night Out event. He liaisoned with 15 external law enforcement agencies, coordinating 59 volunteers, and arranged fiscal support from four different sponsors. His efforts were instrumental in bolstering the installation's relationship with law enforcement and promoting community partnership, police partnership. These significant contributions throughout the past year culminated with his selection as the NAS JRB Fort Worth Sailor of the Year. Thank you so much, Master at Arms First Petty Officer Zachary Mullen. Next is United States Marine Corps Marine Aerial Refueler Transport Squadron Staff Sergeant Aaron Aparicio. There he is. Staff Sergeant Aparicio is a model Marine and community leader. He has accrued over 400 volunteer hours since his tenure at the VMGR 234, which began in the summer of 2021. He regularly volunteers with the Almost Home Dog Shelter Group, where he fosters dogs, enabling them to efficiently transition to a permanent home upon adoption. He also volunteers for multiple events to speak with elementary school children during career days and always portrays the Marine Corps positively to the community in which he serves. Thank you so much, Staff Sergeant Aaron Aparicio. Next is Texas Air National Guard 136th Airlift Wing Master Sergeant Crystal Shankle. There's Crystal here. Master Sergeant Shankle epitomizes professionalism and is an exemplary leader in the community. In addition to being a stellar member of the Texas Air National Guard, she's also heavily involved, here she is, she's also heavily involved in Texas DECA, a youth mentorship and development organization. And among her contributions to DECA, she provides judging, events, developmental feedback, assisting with coordinating for competitive events. She reviews written submissions, and she compiles scoring for the state and national competition conferences. We thank you so much, Master Sergeant Crystal Shankle, for your services. And last, and of course not least, is Texas Air National Guard 136th Security Forces Squadron Staff Sergeant Adam Cooper. Staff Sergeant Adam Cooper is truly a vigilant defender. While visiting a local merchant, a shot was fired, and he heard another patron yell, "He has a gun!" Without hesitation or regard for his own safety, he took immediate action, subduing the armed male. Because of his quick thinking and heroic bravery, Staff Sergeant Cooper was able to prevent the perpetrator from discharging his weapon a second time by physically restraining the suspect until local police officers arrived on the scene. Staff Sergeant Cooper was recognized as a local hero by Durant, Oklahoma, in the local media. Thank you, Staff Sergeant Adam Cooper. And thank you, all of these outstanding distinguished awardees. We honor you, we honor all of you. Thank you so much.
Hey, Jeffrey.
Those are some pretty impressive young people, aren't they? I think our future is kind of safe. I'm feeling pretty good. So y'all know Mr. Don Graves, right? I'm going to try to not have him hold this thing too close because as you all have seen, this is not like the church microphone. I can hold it way out here and you can still hear me. And you know, Don's a little loud, so we wanted Don to sing a little song for you. So we're going to have Don sing God Bless America, and I'm sure he's going to tell you a little story before he sings it.
There's something I want to share with all of you. They don't hear me. Our brother that just talked a while ago said something, and I want to share something, almost the same thing. After 6 weeks of battle on Iwo Jima, we were released from the north end. When we hit the beach day one, 6 weeks earlier, I hit the beach in my outfit with 300 men. 6 weeks later, we were released. 18 of us walked off, no officers. We went down by the cemetery. Each one of us, we had 3 cemeteries, and mine was the 5th. And we lined up to go through the cemetery with the rest of our buddies. And the old man was there, Harry the horse. I want you all to walk through that cemetery, say goodbye to your buddies and your officers, come back out with a Selma, get aboard a ship, go back to Pearl, and get ready for Japan. One by one, we walked through the gate. On the left pole of the arch was a piece of paper 8.5 by 11. And every Marine saw it and walked through. And this is what the letter said when I got there. And it includes everyone in this hangar and everywhere else. Fellas, when you go home, tell the folks we did our best, that they may have many more tomorrows. Folks, you've enjoyed those many more tomorrows. But you know, when you come right down to it, I'm just a sinner saved by the grace of God. And I thank God for what has happened to me in the later years. I had a good life. I was brought up in the Depression. I know what it's like to be without. I cherish everything that's on the table. I was taught that. Or you could go in the front room and not eat supper. And don't bother turning the radio on either. Well, I love America. How about you? All right. Will you all stand and sing our second patriotic song? God bless America. God bless America, the land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean, oh, I will go. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. I've added something to that song. I've added something to it. And it's this.
God bless the Marine Corps.
America, America, America.
98. So he's going to go to Ireland. He leaves tomorrow for his 98th birthday. He said all he wanted to do was sing an Irish song in an Irish pub, and he's going to do it. And then he's going to come back home, and we're going to have a birthday party for him on the 13th of May. There'll be a drive-by birthday by his house in the morning, and then in the afternoon from 2 to 5 at 54th Street at Rain Lily Drive up there at 35 and Heritage Trace. So if any of y'all want to come in 2 to 5, visit with him, do that. So we have a new person that has been coming the last few months and doing a little bit of song for you. And he's going to do one of our other very wonderful patriotic songs for you. Brad, you ready?
Yeah. If you know this one, can you sing it with me? Tomorrow all the things were gone, work for all my life. I had to start again, just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be standing here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. Across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA. There's a pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. I won't forget the women who died and gave that right to me, and I'll gladly stand next to you and defend us till the day. There ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. I am proud to be an American. I'm free. I won't forget the men who died and gave that right to me, and I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend us to the day. There ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
And the women from the United States Army, stand and let us recognize you. Thank you for your service. We love you, and God bless you. Sing along if you know the words. Are you ready for this one? United States Marine Corps. Let's see all the men and women of the United States Marine Corps. God bless you. Thank you for your service. Don's up here at URA and all over. Look at him. All right. Thank you, Don Graves, and thank all of you. here we go, one of my favorite branches. The United States Navy. Please stand up. Men and women of the United States Navy. Roll call in. We thank you for your service and God bless you. These guys. United States Coast Guard. Let's see all 3 or 4 of you. There you are. We love you. God bless you. Bring some friends. We need a few more. Let me see, who do we have left? Wow, this should be a big group right here. Former Air Force base. Welcome all the Air Force veterans of active duty. We love you. God bless you. Everybody that helped roll call do this. There's just so many people to thank. We thank you all. We love you all. We'll see you next month, and you're all invited. I don't know if we can fit all of you in, but you're all invited. We can take 500. We'll see you next month. God bless you all, and have a good weekend. Thank you.